Okay, so today we're going to try a real blast from the past, Legend of Legaia, which is this is a game that was a big part of my childhood. Um, it is a 2000-ish JRPG. I think it was like 1999 or 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. So let's get started, and I'm just going to talk over this long opening cutscene. Um, Yeah, I think I have not played a JRPG on this channel yet because I always imagined JRPGs will probably be boring to watch because it's a lot of like grinding through random encounters. Um, but this is a game that even though it's objectively speaking, it's not the best game. Nevertheless, it had a big impact on me as a kid. It really kind of like inspired my imagination for things and like is what made me get into video games. And it's a game that like I revisit every 5 or 10 years or so. Like in my adult life, I've replayed it a few times. So sometimes I just like get an urge to play it again. And yeah, it's a I want to say it came out like between Final Fantasy 7 and 8. So it's like very clearly a Final Fantasy clone. It even kind of looks like Final Fantasy 7. Oh wow, the sound's getting all messed up. That's a shame. I actually like tried playing this a while back on like the PCSX Reloaded emulator, and it like ran like ass, as the kids would say. Um, the sound was really messed up, and then I learned how to set up the Duck Station emulator, which was like much better. And I played it for like 5 minutes just to see if it worked, and it was like quite good. But right now the sound is getting a little funky. But oh well, it is what it is. Um, what happens when I play on an emulator, I guess. Because the other way to play this would be to get a PS2, which I don't have anymore, and like dish out like $100 for like a PS2 capture card, which I'm not gonna do. Um, but so yeah, what was I saying? This game, like, I think it wasn't that well known, partly because like it was overshadowed, frankly, by like Final Fantasy VIII when it came out. A lot of people consider it like an underrated game. It's kind of like a so-called cult classic. I wouldn't say it's underrated. I think it's like appropriately related for what it is. Because I love it and it had a big influence on me. But like I recognize that there are ways that it's objectively, I would say objectively not as good as some of its contemporaries. Wow, what is going on with my sound? Um, but like I said, it has a special place in my heart. Um, and so we're gonna check it out now. Yeah, so like the premise of this game, since I was talking over it, um, is that this is kind of like a post-apocalyptic world, and like the 10 years or so ago, the world was overcome by this mist, which made everything very dangerous. So now people are living in these isolated communities. Um, so, like, you start out in this little village. For all we know, it's like the only people left in the world, but it's got this wall, protects it from the mist, yada, yada, yada. Um, the thing that made this game special to me as a kid was that we got like a demo disc for it in the mail. I think at that time, we had a PS1. I think we had like maybe like Spyro the Dragon and Medieval and like Road Rash 3D maybe. Um, so like demo disc for this game showed up in the mail. Like, do you remember when demo discs were a thing? And let me lower my volume a bit. So the demo disc covers like this village, and spoiler alert, like an event is going to happen somewhat soon in the game in which we will, the village will get, the wall will get broken, it will get invaded by mist, yada yada. And then eventually, once you rescue the village, then you set out beyond the wall to go on your adventure out in the world. Okay, I think that's all good. And that's where the demo disc leaves off. Like you spend all this time sort of learning learning the lore and whatever, and then learning that like outside is dangerous, no one knows what's out there. People have to go out to hunt, and they often don't come back. Blah 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 blah. And then you have to do some fighting in this town. When I was a kid, we would just replay that demo disc over and over again. So like what should be like 5 minutes worth of fighting in the town, we would just play for hours and hours, and learn like every teeny tiny detail. Like when you were a kid, you would find things like, oh, let's run around, like, is the encounter rate here different than the encounter rate over here? Like, oh, if I want to find the ice monster, like maybe if I jump up and down on these logs, I have a slightly higher chance of finding the ice monster. Like, I probably don't, but this is the kind of shit we would do for hours and hours as a kid. So that like really sort of built up my like gamer mentality of finding this kind of shit. And then the great thing about it was that you get to the end of this demo disc, you go beyond the wall and set out for the world, and that's the end of the demo. And back then we were like 12 years old or something, so we couldn't like go out and buy the rest of the game. It's not like now when I'm a grown-ass adult. If I want to play a game, I go out and buy it. But back then it was like that's all we had, and if we wanted to get the full game, we had to like wait a year until our parents would get it for us. And I think our parents even gave us some like challenge, like, okay, like if you and your brother both get A's on your next report card, then we'll get you that game. So then we're like, holy shit, like next report card, that's like 4 months away. Oh my god, whatever. So yeah, as a kid, all I could do for months and months was kind of like wait and imagine what was out there. And something about that I think had a big formative influence on me. Like what I look for in like games and fiction now is like getting to get back that feeling of like, I can't wait to know what's out there. It's kind of like another example I could give is like, if you were watching the show Lost, like as it was coming out, which I wasn't, so the experience I'm about to tell you is like vicarious. I only watched Lost like years after the fact, and I just binged the whole thing on Netflix, so I didn't have this experience I'm about to tell you about. But the experience my friends had in college, because like I was in college when Lost started, in the first season they're like trying to open this hatch, and they can't keep like not being able to get it open, and then finally they like manage to get the hatch open, and they peer in, and like the camera pulls back on them peering into the hatch, and then that's the end of the season. And then if you want to know what's inside that hatch, like you gotta wait however many months until the next season comes. And I remember when I was in college, everyone was like, what? Like, how can I need to know. That was kind of my feeling as a little kid playing Legend of Legaia. Oh, I already talked to you kids. Can I jump down this? I don't know. No. Yeah, so like that's why, like, despite its shortcomings, which like we'll talk about I'm sure as we go through, this game was like very special to me because of that. So I'm pretty sure I can't like trigger the next upcoming event until I do a little training with you, Tetsu, probably Tetsu, not Tetsu. Yeah. When I loaded this up a few days ago to test it out, I was like struggling trying to figure out how to make the thing happen. You know, there's an event that's going to happen, and I was running around the village like, what do I need to do to get that event to happen again? I can't remember. You know, like JRPGs of this era, like I'm thinking especially like Final Fantasy 7 and 8. Whoops, I need to go back. That was always what you had to do, right? Like Final Fantasy 8, like I'm stuck in this train, all I can do is walk around, like what do I need to do to make something happen? Let me just like walk along the wall, pressing X on everything until I figure out what I need to do. Yeah, it's kind of what happened in this one from time to time. No, it's a lost art, the obnoxious JRPG. I wonder if I can, no. Can I like put another one on in addition? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so the combat system in this game, it's like, you know, it's a typical JRPG. Each of your dudes gets a turn, and you choose to use an item or do an attack or whatever. The thing that people always say is like innovative about it is this like move comboing, right? So they say like it combines a JRPG and a fighting game in that, like, you know, like Final Fantasy or something, you just click attack and you attack. But this one, you enter a series of moves like high, low, left, right, whatever. So some people think that's really the shit. For me, I'm like, I don't know. It's an interesting twist, but I don't feel like it fundamentally changes the gameplay. Because ultimately, like, you just, for whatever level you at and however long your little combo bar is, you kind of just like find the best move and spam it. But it does make things interesting how oh, I always love how this part where May like jumps up and turns to normal color again. Doink. Yeah. Yeah, so you I mean, it gets interesting with like chaining arts together, because you try to find, like, maybe you eventually find which art is the best one, but then if you have like 2 extra spare blocks at the end, you could chain another combo to it, and maybe the art that's the best one like doesn't end in a way that's easy to chain a combo to. Or maybe you don't have enough AP to chain the best arts together, so you have to you don't have the AP you need to chain them together in the best way, so you have to use 2 like not quite as good arts. So I mean, it adds a little bit of depth, but it's not like a fundamentally groundbreaking game mechanic, or it doesn't like pervade everything in the game like you compare to like the Shadow Hearts games, where, like I said earlier, right, with Final Fantasy, like you just press attack and you attack. But this game, it's more complicated. You can say the same thing about Shadow Hearts games, right? You press attack and then you do a little Judgment Ring spinny thing. But with that, like the Judgment Ring spinny thing kind of like pervades everything in the game. Like not just attacking in combat, but there are a billion other things where you need to use that Judgment Ring. Um, but of course, like this is an older game, and um, it was an interesting idea for its time. For me, like the combat was never really what made this game special, and in fact, sometimes it can be tedious. I mean, it's a JRPG. Like 1990s, early 2000s JRPGs are famous for being tedious and grindy. For me, it was more like the atmosphere and the story that made this game special. I mean, and the story is like not like there's not like big twists or anything. The story is like fairly conventional, like, you know, who you think are bad guys and good guys at the beginning like remain the bad guys and good guys through the whole game. But it's more like the atmosphere of the game. Like somewhat very despairing. Um, there's a very satisfying like gameplay loop to it where like you go to some town that's ravaged by the mist, and you learn that town's deal and save it. And like almost every town is different in some way. Like the different towns have somewhat unique stories, and like many of them have interesting twists. Um, One of my favorite ones is like Ratayu, which I'll get to later, which like totally subverts that gameplay loop that you come to expect. Like, spoiler alert, you go and you do the thing that normally saves the towns. Like every other town you've gone to, you go and do this thing and you save the town, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you're the hero." And then you do that thing in Ratayu, and it just like screws things up, and people are like, "I wish you would have left things the way they were." So I always found that like interesting, especially like as a kid. I think that was like a very like, you have certain like works or certain stories as a kid that like really like introduce you to like new concepts that you'd never felt before. That was one of them. Yeah, just walk around, go take a nappy. Maybe I'll save. Remember back in the day when games had save points and you couldn't save until you got to a save point, and like if you died, you lost your progress. Or like usually the biggest risk wasn't dying. The biggest risk was like your parents being like, "Steven, David, come to dinner. Turn off that game." And then you're like, "No, I can't turn it off. I haven't got to a save point yet, and I've been playing I got through the whole blah 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 dungeon. I can't go now. Like, please let me get to the save point." They're like, "No, eat dinner or you're grounded." That was like the most terrifying thing as a kid, having to turn off the PlayStation, uh, before you could reach a save point. Okay, here comes the event. Oh yeah, I love like 90s era dialogue trees. Like, I can keep saying no as many times as I want. He's just always going to say keep doing it. Oh, I couldn't like I misremembered this. I thought this one like it kept just repeating the same thing, like yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Um, but yeah, no, this time it eventually gave me a BioWare style choice where both of the choices were yes. Okay, I'm scared. Be very careful. Oh, I forgot to talk to everyone. Okay, here we go. Bad guy coming. Yeah. So yeah, I remember as a kid, like I expected that this dude would be like the final boss of the game. Um, in a moment, we're gonna have a cutscene. Oh, is it happening now? Actually, yeah. Like we're gonna have a cutscene. A big monster is gonna show up. Yeah. And I remember my friend Jason when because like yeah, I had like I think a bunch of my friends and I all like played this game, especially the demo disc. Like when my one friend got the game for real, I was like so jealous. Um, but yeah, I remember like we would play this demo disc, we discuss it and everything. I remember my one friend was like, I think that monster we just saw is like probably the final boss of the game, and I like totally did not agree with him. I don't know why. Like as a kid, I don't think I had like trope awareness, but I felt like this seems like the henchman of the big boss, right? It doesn't seem like the big boss. Right? The big boss won't be a big strong thing. The big boss will be like behind the scenes thing. Like I think I had seen like Star Wars and all this stuff, um, but like it turned out my friend Jason was right. Like I mean, there's a little bit of a different nuance to it, but like yeah, that big monster at the end is sort of gonna be the final boss. Yeah, now like the big thing of this game is like trying to figure out all the combinations that do, because certain combinations of like if I did high, low, right, it would not do anything. But high, low, left happens to be an art, right? Let me see. Yeah, like, and high, low, high happens to be an art. So now the challenge is like trying to. The thing is, I've played this game so many times. I feel like just like my muscle memory remembers a lot of these. So yeah, like let's see how many I can get out of memory. Now you do get like 3 playable characters, and I feel like I'm not going to remember the other ones as well as I remember this one, Vahn, because like first I feel like he has the least and the easiest to remember, and also like he's the one you start with, so I've probably like played the intro part of this game more than any other part of the game, so far I'm what, like 3 for 3 on like 4 for 4 on remembering these arts. Of course, these are the short ones. Once we get into the long ones, it's gonna be messier. Okay, now I have to consider like what I'm gonna do on this playthrough of the game. I was kind of thinking I would make a commitment to not grinding. So what do I mean by not grinding? This is, I think for a JRPG, the difficulty level is fairly high. Like, you compare Final Fantasy games, like, Final Fantasy games aren't hard, right? Like, for most of the game, everything is balanced in such a way that, like, you won't really be challenged. Like, you fight things, you level up, and like everything you meet you can beat, probably. Like there are like exceptions here and there, like Final Fantasy X, you meet like Seymour on Mount Gagazet and he kicks your ass. But for the most part, like, you're not usually seriously challenged. This game, at least from like my memory as a kid, is not like that. Like when I was a kid, like bosses would kick your ass and you kind of like, you would almost need to XP grind for like another level or two before you could beat them. And I mean, that, like, when I was a kid, that's how I played the game. Like, you get to a certain dungeon or whatever, you go through it, pick up all the items, there's a boss at the end, but I wouldn't fight the boss then. I would go back to town, like, get some free healing, so I didn't have to use up my healing leaves and magic leaves and whatnot. Then I would like run through the dungeon again. Like, basically I would like run back and forth through the dungeon over and over until like each of my characters leveled, and then I would like run back and forth through the dungeon one more time just for good measure. And like then I would have enough levels that like eventually like the boss that was kicking my ass before would be trivialized because I had so many HP and whatever now. But I mean, that's like a lot of grinding, right? I mean, these JRPGs are infamous for like encouraging a lot of level grinding, which can get super boring. When I was a kid, like, it was all new and exciting and I had nothing else to do anyway, so I didn't mind like level grinding over and over again. But now I feel like I would kind of like to enjoy the game rather than like level grinding it. Oh wait, I need to go get May, because I will get some like nice item if I help her later. I will get a nice item if I help her. Oh shit, I hate these things because they steal my shit. Like, I remember what these do is like they steal my stuff, and then like if I kill them, I get it back. But sometimes they steal your shit and then they run away before you can kill them. I think I've like not missed, not like gotten an art wrong yet. Um, but yeah, so what I was saying was like I want to try to do this game without grinding. Firstly, because grinding is like boring, and secondly, because like I kind of want to like experience the feel of challenge again. Well, I hope I kill you, because if I don't, like you might kill me before. Okay, good. I need some healing, but I'm pretty sure if I go in May's house, I'm gonna get it. I really don't want to use like my healing item, because in this game, like restoration, like HP and MP restoration items are pretty few and far between, and in general, everything is super expensive. So like you don't want to buy them. That's why I always end up like running back out of the dungeon to get free healing in the town. Okay, so let's. Yeah, I remember. I can like, I will get just teleported back home, and then I can get healing from little sister there. Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying was like I would like to try doing the game without grinding, both to be less boring and, I mean, indirectly to be less boring, because like the bosses will be harder. And I think, you know, as a like a grown-ass grown-up, I think I can handle more difficulty in the bosses now than I did as a kid, because I can strategize more efficiently and whatever. Yes, give me medicine. Now I have to go do my thing. But then the question, the interesting question is like, what counts as grinding? Because I definitely will not do like running back and forth through the same dungeon over and over again. Like the last time I revisited this game several years ago, oh, these slimes are like these slimes can be easy, but they can also divide, like, and multiply, and if that gets out of hand, bad news. Okay, anyway. What I was saying was, yeah, so like even the last time I played this, I made a commitment to not like XP grind. Like I didn't run back. Oh wow, I took you out in one art? That was nice. Oh, and I think if my level increased, I might get, at some point, I don't know if it's this level or later, I'll be able to have 5 commands instead of 4, and that will let me start chaining things together. So anyway, so yeah, I want to try like playing without grinding, at least without XP grinding, right? Without running back and forth through the same area. But like there are other ways that you could grind in a game like this. So for example, the magic mechanic of this game, it's almost kind of Pokemon-esque. There are certain enemies who like you can absorb their skill, and it's just sort of random, right? Because it's random encounters, so you don't know if you'll get that one like in a given encounter, right? I've had like 3 encounters with 3 different kinds of monsters. So, and then even when you encounter that monster and you kill it, it's a random chance to absorb it or not. And the last time I played, in fact, I think like every time I've played, because I have a completionist bent to me, so well, I remember if I go to my house, I can gather everyone to me, but I think I can do it from the village elder's house too. Like, I want to check. But anyway, like, because I have a completionist bent to me, I would run around the same area, like, just looking for the monster I want to absorb. Like this is an absorbable. So, like, if I got to the end of an area and I hadn't absorbed this monster yet, I would keep running around until I encounter one and absorb it. And, like, obviously that is also a form of grinding. Oh yes, I can chain together 2 things now. So, like, if I'm really committed to not grinding, I shouldn't do that. I keep blocking all my hits. I'm going to need to do another combo like that to kill you. If I'm really committed to, like, no grinding, then I shouldn't do that either. Oh, I'm glad I spirited to have extra defense, because that tailfire attack can be pretty big. Okay, let's just do the same thing I just did. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that, like, in my mind, I didn't think of that as grinding in the same way that I thought of like XP grinding as grinding. Oh, see, I didn't absorb him just now. I didn't think of like magic grinding as grinding in the same way I thought of XP grinding as grinding, even though like it surely is. I was thinking of a comparison of like item farming in Borderlands, right? So like in Borderlands, there are like a gajillion different like procedurally generated weapons, like Diablo style, right? Like Borderlands is basically Diablo as a first-person shooter. And there are also some like unique ones, and some of them have certain chances to drop from certain enemies or certain bosses. So whenever I played through Borderlands, I just like I played through it, and whatever weapons I got were the ones I used. And like if I got a weapon that's great for my build, then great. If I didn't, I just kept on going until I did get something good. Um, but some people will item farm in Borderlands. So like they'll keep returning to the same boss over and over again, like 20 or 30 times until it drops the particular gun that they've been looking for. And whenever I play Borderlands, I never did that. Like I didn't even like have to make a commitment to not do it. I just like didn't want to do it because it didn't sound fun to me. It sounded super tedious. So why is it that like item farming in Borderlands like seems tedious and grindy to me, but like running back and forth in a JRPG, getting random encounters to like try to get a certain drop or try to get absorb a certain spell or whatever, like somehow in my mind, like I don't automatically associate that with like tedious grinding, even though like it absolutely is. And like objectively speaking, it's less fun than like fighting a Borderlands boss over and over again. But for some reason, like maybe because it was like so deeply ingrained into me from childhood, because that's how I used to play these games, like it doesn't bother me as much. I don't know why. But yeah, so I guess I will have finished this section of the game without absorbing that fire magic. Well, that's okay. I only fought one of the fire monsters and I didn't get the chance to absorb. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So I remember like I either talk to May or talk to the village elder and they will bring the people together. Yeah, so now we're like approaching the end of the end of the whatchamacallit, the end of where the demo disc would end. So, I've been what like 10 minutes since the fighting in this game started, but like I said, when I was a kid, I would play that 10 minutes for like hours and hours and hours. All right. Let's talk to everyone and see what they say. I just want to talk to like the recognized, yeah, like Ixis and Ixis's mom. Grumble, grumble. I like this grumble, grumble lady because she's always grumbling and saying stuff to herself, and like sometimes she has like pretty good points to make. But then when she notices you're listening, she's like, "Oh, don't mind me. I'm just a old lady saying nonsense." Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, you're not saying nonsense. I think you actually had a good point. You just don't want people to know that you've got some good thoughts in your head." Yeah. The other thing about this game is like because like people like me who like played it so much and overthought it so much, like people will have like deep ideas about very tiny insignificant characters or like little moments in the game, or like, oh, like there's so much deep characterization in this game because like one time Gala shook his hand in a certain way and like blah blah blah. So like you compare like objectively, like there's not as much going on like plot wise or character wise in this game as there is in like some huger game like Final Fantasy games or something, or like Chrono Trigger or something. But because like the fans like me like played it so much and tried to read so much into every tiny little thing, I feel like in a lot of sense like people like me kind of like filled in the gaps and like made the not like made up story that wasn't there, but I mean we like brought created our own depth to what was going on in this game, which is probably another reason why this game like has a special place in my heart. 'Cause it was almost like giving me some like training and like imagination and storytelling and whatnot. I think another thing that appealed to me about this game is like you notice that the way each round of combat worked was like I put in my my commands and then like we see what happens. Like sometimes I went before the enemy and sometimes the enemy went before me. This will get more obvious when we're fighting in battles with bigger parties. So like when there's more people in my party and more than one enemy. But like it's not like, you know, in a typical I think basically every other JRPG I played where like you put in your moves when your turn comes up and they happen right then. This one is more like, it's really more like second edition Dungeons and Dragons, where like at the beginning of the turn you say what you're going to do, but like you don't know if you're going to go before the orc or the orc's going to go before you. Like that depends on an initiative roll. And I mean that's also been done away with in like more recent versions where like you roll initiative at the beginning and there's a turn order and you know what the turn order is going to be. That like the little bit of uncertainty from like D&D 2E or this is something I kind of miss, because there's like sometimes a lot of strategy goes into like am I going to take a risk when like I'm not sure if the enemy's going to go before me or not. So for example, like later when we have 3 members of our party, there's going to be like Gala, who's got the best magic ability and he's also the slowest, and Noah, whose magic ability is pretty crappy but she's really fast. So say you're fighting some boss and like some of your people are low health. Are you gonna heal with Noah, who you know is like not gonna heal them to full and like it's kind of a waste of her MP because her magic skill is not very good, but at least like you can make sure to get people healed before the boss kills them? Or are you gonna use Gala, where like if he does it, he's gonna give everyone a full heal to max HP, but there's the risk that like because he's slow, then maybe the boss will move before him and knock out one of your people before you can heal. And you know, this is a like standard JRPG where like if someone's KO'd, the healing doesn't help them. You need to first revive them with a Phoenix down or whatever before you can heal them. So, you know, if Gala casts your Cure Everyone spell, but the boss KO'd someone first, then that person's not going to get any of the healing. So yeah, there are these like little bits of strategy that come in because of like the initiative system here that you don't necessarily get in other games. I mean, of course, you could say it's kind of like an artificial introduction of strategy because like having to strategize in that way is just an artifact of this awkward system that it uses. It's not like really strategizing. But hey, I mean that's what happens in every game, right? Like any game imposes a somewhat arbitrary system of rules, and the strategy you make is within the constraints of that system. Some games make it look more realistic than others, but ultimately, like, it is an arbitrary system. That's why it's a game. Let's heal up. Or not heal up, save up. I don't think you get healing from memory statues in this game. It's not like I want to say like Final Fantasy X, where every save point heals you up. That's not the case here. Now I remember there's a very important secret item I want to pick up here, but I can't remember exactly when I get it. Like, can I get it now or is it going to be later? I'm not going to buy shit from you, man. I like almost never buy stuff in this game because it's super expensive. And like I was saying earlier, I kind of want to have a little more challenge, so like I don't need to have like the top level equipment all the time. Oh yeah, it's locked. So I think like maybe after May talks to me is when I can get this. Yeah, there are some other games like I want to say like Shadow Hearts Covenant and stuff like that. Where, oh, I do not want to. Yeah, that tree, I will get killed if I go there. Yeah, like Shadow Hearts Covenant, I'll pretty much like upgrade to the best equipment I can like all the time. Partly because it's like possible, it's affordable, and partly because like those Shadow Hearts games are ones where like it's really good to be able to, for like each of your characters to be able to one-shot one enemy, because like you can end a combat before you take any damage. Whereas if you have like one tier lower of equipment, it's not going to happen, and like every combat will become a slog. In this game, like even if you have the best equipment, it's rare to be able to like one-shot an enemy. And so like every battle becomes a slog no matter what equipment you have. So it's like not as important to get the best equipment every time. And even if you wanted to, there's absolutely no way you could afford it unless you were doing insane GP grinding, which I'm not going to do. Okay, I think May will talk to me after I try to leave, right? Yeah, here she comes. Now let's hope that I did the things I need to do for her to give me the extra item. It's been a long... I remember she will give me some extra stuff. I think she will like... Yeah, so she gives me some armor. And I think she'll give me like an accessory, right? Yeah, okay. Good. As far as I can remember, that's everything I get from her. Yeah, May, you kind of definitely fail the Bechdel test. Because you don't talk about anyone other than this guy you like and your dad. No, that's not true. May like reunites with her mom later. But still, like the only thing she and her mom talk about is like this PC. Can I get this? Can I get this this thingamajig? Oh, do I need to leave and come back? So yeah, like walking out this door was where the demo would end, and of course, like now I can walk around. Right? See, this is like very Final Fantasy VII, or like a lot of Final Fantasy VII. Right? There's like now I'm in the overland map, and when I'm in the village, I won't get random encounters, but if I walk around out here, I will get me some random encounters. Yep. I guess technically I'm breaking my rule of no grinding because I just like walked into a random encounter for no reason, but whatever. Just to show y'all that that's what happens here. Now, I think previously, even without my ability to chain combos together, I still took you out in one attack, so I think I can do that again. And like now I'm leveled up and I've got a Rust Hero, so my attacks hit harder. Yay. Oh, I forgot to equip your armor. But I always feel like sad to equip his armor because like it's kind of cool to have him wearing his classic like vest with a flame on the back. Okay, let's equip that arm. Well, first let's see if we can get that thing. I hope there's like not like something I needed to do to make this unlock. I feel like I've played this game so many times I remember most of the hidden stuff. And like frankly there's not a lot of hidden stuff in it. Ah, yes! Okay. Finally! Good. Okay, so let me equip some stuff. Hunter clothes. It's pretty good defense boost actually. And put on this. And I think that increases my HP, and it increases my max HP, like it doesn't increase my current HP. So leave me with some missing HP. I was already missing HP because yes, free healing. I was already missing HP because that green slime hit me once, but then I'm missing more because I increased my max. Okay, yeah. Now we're going into like one of the more sloggy parts of the game because I'm going to be like fighting tougher enemies than I just was, but I'm still alone. until I, reunite with the next party member I'm going to have. So that has been the beginning of Legend of Legaia. We'll take a break here, and then next time we'll go through the next little dungeon and fight some harder fights and add a new character to our party. So, till next time.